Good morning. Quite a different crowd today. This is a picture that Lori took out our back patio window this morning. Somebody told me they watching me on sermon audio. I can't imagine why. I probably need to say that's not true. This is just some picture I got off the internet. So here's Lori at a garage sale this last week. Trying to replace Tupperware. That's not true either. That's somebody doing some work on archaeology. Pastor mentioned this, and I'm not sure if he got the same message that I got from Derek, but one of our heroes of atheism, Richard Dawkins, calls himself a cultural Christian. What is that? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But I'll point out, he prefers to live in a country based on Christian principles and would not want the UK to become an Islamic nation. Interesting, isn't it? And then he comments, and you can look that up if you want. If only one of the people I debated had predicted this. Every one of the people that he debated told him, you do not want to live in a country that's not blessed by what Christianity offers. So, do you remember 2 years ago? I didn't. What's today's date? April 7th. So, what? Exactly 2 years? I taught on archaeology. You remember that? I didn't either. So, here's an archaeological site in Jerusalem, Israel. And this is what I taught 2 years ago. About the Dead Sea Scrolls, taking down Goliath, connection to Samaria, Tutankhamun. You remember that? That was a book and a video making fun of what Howard Carter found in one of the tombs in Egypt, the Motel of the Mysteries, and I find it hilarious. You may or may not. And then the great city of Babylon, I learned a ton about Babylon. You know, teachers learn a lot more than what the students do. The Tower of Babel, the tomb of Luke. So, fast forward 2 years, Creation Series 35. This is the 42nd lesson that I've taught. Hard to believe that, 42. And I'd like to encourage the disciples, you being the disciples, me being the encourager. 1 Timothy 4:13 says, till I come, give attention to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. As Christians, we do not need archaeology in order to believe the Bible is God's word, do we? We seek archaeology because it never fails to confirm our beliefs. Never fails. What is archaeology? I want to point out that I am not an archaeologist, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Anybody younger than 30 has no idea what that is referring to. So what is archaeology? It's the study of arks. It's the study of human past using the material remains. It can be an object created by people, modified or used by people. Sometimes these artifacts provide the only clues about an ancient community or civilization. The Bible is not a scientific textbook. A science textbook. But when it speaks on science, it better be correct, 100%. The Bible is not an archaeology textbook. But when it speaks about ancient people or places, it better be 100% correct. Agreed? What is the greatest archaeology discovery? What would you say? I'm going to give you some choices here. I remind you the test is next week. Get prepared for it. All right? Make sure that you get here early. Make sure you bring 2 number 2 pencils when you come. By the way, the number 2 pencil is the number 1 pencil in the world. Why do they call it number 2? I don't know. Howard Carter, King Tut's tomb, the Siloam Pool of Jesus' time, Tel Den Stela, Nag Hammadi Library, or the Dead Sea Scrolls. Make your votes. What do you think? Sorry, it's not the Dead Sea Scrolls. That is not the greatest. I understand this is people's opinions. I heard somebody posted, what's his name? The big guy for Purdue. What's his name? Mitch Daniels. Zach Edey, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And did you see Rick Mount play? Did you see the big dog play? 3 different types of players. How can you compare them? This is like saying the 47 White Sox are the best team ever. Did you see them play? You compare them to the other teams? So this would be, most archaeologists would agree. Now, if we were to say something about the Bible, then we might have a different answer. So in 1922, Howard Carter opened a tomb and he saw wonderful things inside. And there he is. That is not Jimmy Carter's brother. And this is on display in a museum. I'm not sure which museum. I didn't give myself any notes here. And we've actually discovered the face of King Tut. And here it is. Lori asked me, who are you picking on this week? And actually, 4 of the people I'm picking on are not going to be here today. So the surface of the mask is covered in a very thin layer, approximately 30 nanometers. Nanometer is 10 to the minus 9th. Tiny. You can't even do it like this. Of 2 different alloys of gold, a lighter 18.4 karat and another of 22.5 karat. When you consider the tomb, the coffin weighs 243 pounds of gold are in the coffin. Being a scientist, being a chemist, I like to set up things like this. A pound of gold is 16 ounces. Last week, an ounce of gold was selling for $22.60. All right. So that turns into $8.8 million. $8.8 million. So you have a choice. Are you going to have this casket of gold, 8.8 million, or are you going to go like I do, and I've instructed Lori to get me the cardboard casket for $308. And you can order this. There's going to be a shipping charge. I could not find a place in America that has the cardboard casket. So, Laura, you can use the old TV box if you want. Now, here's one of the sites that I depend upon greatly. And by the way, if you want any of these things, my email's in the church directory. Email me. I'll be happy to send it to you. We always have to have a disclaimer. There's a few doctrinal problems with this website. They discount the rapture and say it's not a thing. And they've given a list of the churches in Lafayette that are acceptable, and ours is not on that list. In fact, there's only one on that list. I'm not going to mention which church that is. So there's my warning. Hittitus. Archaeology, Hittitus. What is Hittitus? Again, you're getting prepared for the test. If you miss the test, you can see it on sermon audio or get the notes from your neighbor. shin bone pains, condition of ringing in the ears. The pitcher loses control, the other team has 20 hits by the second inning. Belief that the Hittites never existed. By the way, the ringing in the ears, tinnitus. Okay. So that's not it. The belief that the Hittites never existed. Here's the problem. The problem is the Bible mentioned the Hittites. Skeptics viewed the Bible as myth rather than real history. This reminds me, and this is kind of common throughout everything I talk about. Henry Morris wrote an excellent book, The War Against God. It's been going on for a long time, and it's still going on. The Bible makes over 40 references to the great Hittite Empire. There's the problem. If the Hittites did not exist, then the Bible's clearly wrong about that, and then what else can it be wrong about? 100 years ago, no archaeological evidence had ever been found to prove it really did exist. Just another Bible myth, along with the flood, along with this and that. However, in 1906, Hugo Winkler uncovered a library of 10,000 clay tablets. Those ancient records fully documented the long-lost Hittite Empire and confirmed the reliability of the Bible. By the way, I had heard it all my life as a Christian. The Bible is confirmed by archaeology, but until I studied it myself, no, I didn't go out on the field and dig stuff up. Later excavations uncovered, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, the capital city of the mythical empire. Today, so many Bible cities, names, and events have been unearthed through archaeology. The Bible is considered the greatest document to help people find those ancient places. Many lost cities have been located using the Bible as a road map. So here is, in green there, the Hittite Empire. Now, let me rephrase the question. What is the greatest biblical archaeological discovery? Howard Carter, the King Tut's tomb, Siloam Pool, Tel Dan Stele, Nag Hammadi Library, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Make your vote. I think you know. This is pretty easy. This is like a 2-foot putt for Jerry and I. Okay, a 6-inch putt. Okay, a 3-inch putt. It's not that, it's not that, it's not that. It's the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let's talk about that. Somebody goes, well, you already talked about this. Well, and I forgot some of these things. A Bedouin farmer threw a rock into a newly washed out cave and heard the sound of a smashing pot. All right? There were critics who claimed those books of the Bible were definitely written centuries after they are reported to be written. And the Dead Sea Scrolls obliterated that idea. So here it is, Qumran, east of Jerusalem, right above the Dead Sea. Many caves in this area. A little further away picture there. Now, Drew, if you could just scan to the right a little bit on this picture, we can kind of see where that is. Batman wrote down a note, make sure to knock down that sign with the Batmobile next week. So, accidentally discovered in 46, 47, it's kind of, they're not exactly sure which of the two dates. I've seen both. In jars near Qumran, jars that most likely look something like this. Between 800 to 900 manuscripts, mostly Hebrew, some Aramaic, and some Greek. And there's a picture. Every book of the Old Testament except Esther. Now, since that time, because of the internet and because of Craigslist and things like that. I don't think you'll find Dead Sea Scrolls on Craigslist, but you might find it on eBay. Many fragments have been shown to be fake. That does not diminish the authenticity of what was actually found there. Here's another one. Looks real, doesn't it? These are actually fake. They've been shown to be fake. Then I wanted to include this picture because I worked in a science lab. I worked at Lilly. I worked at Blistex. I worked at several others over the years. And this, they took great care to protect the Dead Sea Scrolls. In this picture, you'll see a desiccator. That is moronic. I was going to say ironic. That's moronic. But there's a desiccator in the back right, and that's to keep things dry. Put stuff in there, and I used that when I worked at Lilly. Have you been to the National Archives in Washington, D.C.? So I see some people shaking their heads. It's a good idea to go there. You'll see some of the original documents. All right. One that I went to, yes, hand back there.
You say they were fakes. You don't mean the ones they found. It's just people selling fakes.
I didn't hear what he said.
He said, you said that they're fakes. All right. But those, you're not talking about the real ones. You're talking about
Fakes that people have chemically treated paper to look old. Those are considered fake, not the actual Dead Sea Scrolls.
Were those found with the Dead Sea Scrolls?
No, they've been done afterwards. I'm sure, priests at the time said, we've got to preserve these, put them in jars, put them in this cave. We're going to preserve them for future generations. But here's one of the letters that I really appreciated. It was from Einstein to Roosevelt saying, because of the studies we've been doing on radioactivity and uranium and so on, maybe you should have a project where you think about making the atom bomb. By the way, Germany was very close to developing their atom bomb. And sprechen Sie Deutsch? That's what we would have been doing had they discovered it before we did. And, I wondered when I went into the archives, protected by men and women that are carrying firearms, you're going, wait, they're just documents, right? Why does it have to be protected like that? Well, the National Archives closed a couple months ago because of people dumping red powder. And they didn't get into the cases, which are, they're not vacuumed, but they have nitrogen and inert gases in them to prevent them from reacting, and very dry, keep the water out. So I appreciated this. Wait, you're not aware that people glue themselves to fine art, and you're going, what could you possibly be thinking? All right. King David, this was an absolute shock to me. There was no archaeology information about David. You and I go, well, David, one of the patriarchs, right? We obviously have in David a figure built substantially of romance, legend, and literary elaboration, wrote this scholar. By the way, I tried to find a date for this article, could not find a date for the article. So I just gave his lifespan. Another scholar, Lamech, it's rather likely that the tales about him are as historical as the legends about King Arthur. Do you have a problem with that? I do. Because David, A man after God's heart. David, who wrote a lot of the Psalms. David is just not there. 1 Peter 3:15 says this, sanctify the Lord God in your hearts and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you for a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. Meekness and fear. So let's get a perspective on this. When was King David's reign? I'm going to give some choices there. The test will be multiple choice. And you have one of those Scantrons that you'll fill in, you know. Had a kid one time go, A, B, C, D, he scored just about as well as the other kids. So what would you vote for here? Just right around 1000 BC. 1000 BC. So I like to give graphics. It helps me understand. So I got this graphic and I went, whoa, okay. That's way too much information, right? And just go ahead and memorize that. That will be on the test. I showed it to you in class. What's going to be on the test, Mr. Clark? What I talked about in class. Is this going to be on the test? Did I talk about it? It could be. So this is more like, you know, this is what I can handle. All right? Okay, about 1000 BC. Now, here's the question. How many empires have conquered Jerusalem over the centuries? And you know when they conquer, they go in and they're really nice and they say, just give us your stuff. And no, when they conquer, they destroy. So this is an important question. How many times has it been conquered over the centuries? What do you think? By the way, no cell phones during the test. Don't want you texting somebody what's the answer, number 7. At least 20 times. At least 20 times. And think about it. When they come in and destroy, they destroy. They tear down everything. They break everything. They loot when they can. I mean, how many things were taken to Babylon? Well, it turns out the Tel Dan Stele inscription, you go, what? Tel Dan, see, that sounds like a rock group or something. Tel Dan is a city in northern Israel. Here's where it's located. Above the Sea of Galilee, or Lake Tiberias, whatever you want to call it. There it is again. And that is the correct pronunciation, Stele. It's an upright stone, slab, or pillar bearing an inscription or design and serving as a monument, marker, or memorial. What do we do in this day and age when something significant happens at a site? We don't build a monument to it, do we? We might just put a plaque there or something, like this plaque. (1782). They got your birth date on there, don't they? Pa-dum-pum. So here is the new stele of the biblical pharaoh found, 1 meter across. I think I have it here, about 2 meters tall. It's supposed to be 589 to 570 BC. Now, if you're interested, there's a Tel Dan excavation experience coming up. It will be in northern Israel. There is time to sign up for this. It's coming up soon, 1st of June. The application is due by April 15th. Get your taxes in, then get your application for this in. You get credit for it. The Hebrew Union College and New York University. The accommodations, volunteers will be housed in Mount Hermon Field School with 2 or 3 person occupancy options. Cost 2 weeks for $1,240. Not bad. Some of you eat that much in a week. We have a special going on right now for the next 10 callers. Next 10 callers will get a Ben Shapiro autographed yarmulke. By the way, this is the real deal. There was supposed to be sound there. Can I go back? It's even funny the second time. No, this is a real deal. I'm not kidding about this. I did not sign up. So, a small column or pillar used as a monument. 2 Kings 8:28. As he, and there's the name of the king, Ahaziah, went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to the war against Hazael, king of Syria, and Ramoth Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. Okay? 2 Kings 8:28. And here's part of the demolished stele. Right there it is. I mean, this is the evidence for David. You're going, it's incredible. 8 kings are mentioned on this stele. And I just gave you that quote. Right there, the house of David. And you do understand hieroglyphics, right? And you can, no, I don't either. So this is interesting. Well, at least it was to me. We're right in the midst of it, aren't we? Over 30 trillion in debt. John 5:2. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5, I think the King James says porticos or porches. The lame man was healed here. And so, I went to the Google Maps and I typed in pool of Bethesda. And this is what I got. I'm not kidding. That's what I got. The aquatic center. I didn't know at this point whether we would have time for the long one or the short one. We'll take a look at the short
Today,
one.
you will visit the ancient pool of Bethesda in the city of Jerusalem.
We'll try again.
Today, you will visit the ancient pool of Bethesda in the city of Jerusalem. Located along the Via Dolorosa, the pool brings us back to one of the Lord's 2 recorded miracles that he performed in Jerusalem. As it is recorded in John 5:9, the man who laid sick for 38 years immediately was made well, took up his bed, and walked. Located on the Via Dolorosa Road inside the Muslim quarter of the old city of Jerusalem, you are visiting today the twin pools of Bethesda. Spelled Bethesda in the Hebrew language, the name actually means House of Grace. About 100 feet inside the Sheep Gate, which is located in the eastern wall surrounding the city, the gate is now called the Lion's Gate, and it is the same gate through which Israeli paratroopers broke into the old city of Jerusalem during the Six-Day War of 1967. There are 2 connected pools here. The older pool is traced as far back as the Greek Hellenistic period, and even then it had the reputation of having curative powers of healing. Fed by natural underground springs, the water level, the love of Jesus overcame both illness and self-pity that day, and grace prevailed in the house of grace, the pool of Bethesda, on that Sabbath day so long ago. That same grace is available today, and wherever humble hearts reach out to God in faith, that same place, wherever they stand, becomes a house of grace as well. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch the full version of this video or learn more about the site, click below.
And you can contact them for travel arrangements. So plenty of pictures of it too. You can see people up in the upper left corner of that picture, can't you? Gives you. I thought the pool of Bethesda would be like a little swimming pool. Look at that thing. Underground aqueducts, natural springs. The Roman arch. They didn't have steel beams back then. Look at the size of that. And there's sound for the next one. When it is really hot. I did my own there. So here, the real estate available in Jerusalem at rock bottom prices. Okay, you guys would not do that for me, so I had to build it in. So we at Century VIBC are offering this home, 800 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1/2 of a bathroom, walking distance to the Via Dolorosa, partially attached siding, eat-in kitchen, great view of the temple, handyman special. This one won't last, will not last. So act now. Now normally we at Century VIBC, normally we always accept Capital One. Yeah, I do have sound there.
588-2300 Empire.
And that the realtor we suggest is your shack, my shack, and a bungalow.
Empire.
And we always ask this question if you're going to use American Express. Oh, what's in your clay jar? Okay, so I thought I would do this clock reaction. You've seen it. I like it. I need a volunteer. Okay, Joe. I have the candle going here in case we have a complete power outage. You know, we'll be able to have some light in here. All right. No, we don't. Okay. Have a mind of its own. I've got solution A and solution B. If you're interested, potassium iodate and starch and bisulfite. And what I'm going to ask Joe to do here is first put on the safety specs. They're not particularly dangerous solutions. But this is one I love doing this reaction. All right, so what I want you to do is take the 2 test tubes, hold them up like this, pour 1, 2, 3, and then hold it up for everybody. But why don't you come around over here? And then you're going to hold it up so people can see what happens.
I'm in front of people, sorry.
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
That's good. We gotta kind of move fast with this. Let's not burn ourselves. Yeah, you can put it right back in there. So this is being done by a trained idiot. Do not attempt this at home. Clock reaction. It is a cool reaction. You got one more to do here. If you could do it over the table so we don't stain the carpet in the event.
That would be good.
And we would change the concentration, change the temperature. And of course, being a chemist, I'm interested in that's enough.
Okay.
We already saw it change. So I could give you the chemical. Thank you very much. And what does that have to do with archaeology? Not a thing. I am a chemist, not an archaeologist. All right. Water from the rock. You remember that in the Old Testament?
Now this rock that Moses struck and God split in two is believed to have been found and is a perfect match with the biblical account. It is massive in size and sits upon a small hill. It's also located in a large valley where the Israelites could have camped and can be seen from a long distance away. It shows water grooves in it where massive amounts of water ran down from it. And you can see this rock and the water channels and grooves that were made when the water gushed out from it. Now God confirms this in Isaiah 28:21. It says, "They did not thirst when he led them through the deserts. He made the water flow out of the rock for them. He split the rock and the water gushed out." And this is exactly what we see here at this large, massive rock.
I didn't do a lot of research on that. Is that possible? Absolutely. Is it probable or likely? I do not know. How many people came out of Egypt? The Bible says 600,000 men, probably 2 million people. So it's not going to be a little rock that you put in your backyard or in the front yard to keep people from driving across your yard. It's not going to be something like that. It's going to be massive. Tells. This is kind of surprising to me. I knew nothing about a tell. You've heard of Tel Aviv? Did you know these others actually exist? Before the Trump administration put the American embassy in Jerusalem, where was the embassy? Here are your choices. Tel Aviv, Tel Dan, Tel Mamre, Tel Hazar, Tel Megiddo, Tel a woman, Tel Beersheba. What do you think? Do you know? He was not very popular with, I don't even call them the liberals anymore, I call them the left, because he moved it to, okay, you got your answer? Tel Aviv, that's where it was. And 3 presidents before him promised to do it, and only Trump did. After conquest of a city might be burned, razed, or otherwise destroyed. The new city might be built right on top of the destroyed one. By razing the city, it would offer some protection against invaders. Imagine the glee an archaeologist would experience if he went to one of these tells. Here's Tel Mamre. Here's Tel Cassis. And I always do this, try to throw things in to get you to think, get you involved. There are 5 sisters in a room. Mary is playing checkers. Sally is reading a book. Beth is playing dolls. Sue is dancing. What is the 5th sister doing? Took me about 45 seconds. Took Laurie about 46 seconds. He said, well, I don't know. I don't know what she's doing. Who knows? Laurie raises her hand. What? Yes, she's playing checkers. Unless Mary's playing by herself. Barney did it on one of the episodes, played himself. Oh, that's a surprising move. So September 2022 marked the 200th anniversary of the deciphering of Rosetta Stone. You probably studied this in school. Here's the stone. It's about 3.7 feet tall. 2.5 feet wide, nearly a foot thick, 1,675 pounds. So the ability to decipher this just helped tremendously. Merneptah is the name of the pharaoh. Near the bottom of the hieroglyphic inscription, a people called Israel is said to have been wiped out by the conquering pharaoh Merneptah. So this stele gave us a tremendous insight into things of ancient times. So just over 200 years ago, Campbellian found the Rosetta Stone and cracked the code. What gave Campbellian the edge over his unsuccessful predecessors was the recent discovery, the Rosetta Stone, which contains the same text in Egyptian and Greek. Not unlike what Ralphie discovered when he was looking for information to...
90 seconds later, I'm in the only room in the house where a boy of 9 could sit in privacy and decode. Aha, B. I went to the next. E. The first word is B. S. It was coming easier now. U. 25. That's R.
I'll be right there, Mom.
Tension was terrible. What was it? The fate of the planet may hang in the balance.
No, Randy's gotta go. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a...
So that allowed him to decode those messages that were coming over the radio. And we watch that movie every year and laugh from the beginning to the end. If you haven't watched it, it's a Christmas story, not the Christmas story. So here's some places where you can get some more information. Hallie's Bible Handbook, do you have that? You should have that on your shelf. I'm not sure if you should have anything on your shelves anymore. Just go look it up. Here's some further reading. References. So here's an archaeologist, a real archaeologist, unlike me. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Greg Kuchel. We'll go with that. His website and some things you can find on YouTube. Stand to Reason. I've held for a long time, along with many Christian apologists, that archaeologist is a great ally of Christians. Another one for me is that all of the disciples gave their lives. Would they do that for something that is a fairy tale or they didn't observe? This is one of the encouragements to me. It is one evidence of the divine authorship of the Bible because it consistently vindicates the historical accuracy of Scripture. Imagine my shock when I learned that many world-class archaeologists disagree. The first was a concern voiced by many of the contributors, some of them Jewish archaeologists, some Christian, though not evangelical or conservative, who bemoaned the attempts of fundamentalists to use archaeology to prove the religious claims of the Bible. Of course, we have an ongoing debate about what the word prove means. These eminent scholars admit archaeological evidence demonstrates the historical record of the Bible is reliable by and large. Yet they add a disclaimer warning us not to draw religious conclusions from the accurate history of the Scriptures. When world-class archaeologists acknowledge that their research supports the Bible's historicity, and then in the next breath warn, this doesn't mean the Bible is true, they admit a strange schizophrenia. Francis Schaeffer explains that modern man lives in an oddly fractured world. His life is lived on two different planes. Picture a two-story house with no staircase connecting the upper story with the lower story. The lower story consists of one kind of reality: facts, science, the laws of nature, rationality, logic, the world as it really is. The upper story is where values, meaning religion, faith, morality, and God, reside. And the two shall never meet. The rich man and Lazarus. And he said unto them, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. I'm absolutely amazed when I study science and biology, and the lesson last week. It's just incredible. It's just unbelievable how little knowledge we have, our little pea-sized brains trying to comprehend an absolute way beyond our understanding. His thoughts are not our thoughts. As Christians, we do not need archaeology in order to believe that the Bible is God's word. I make this statement: if God could make the universe and the human body, could he make a book about his love and the history of the world to give to his creatures that he loves? Absolutely. We seek this information because it never fails to confirm our beliefs. That's why I do. So, my thanks go to these people. The pastor who gives me time to speak. I've known pastors that jealously guard their time, and yeah, you can have 3 minutes. Will that be enough? So I appreciate that, Pastor. Drew and Steve, who helped me in the sound booth when my computer tries to send some obviously terrible sounds to your ears. So they turn it down and turn it up and turn it down and turn it up. Special thanks to Bob Berninger, who several years ago, when Pastor Goodwill was here, he convinced the deacons and pastor to have Dan Clark teach a Sunday school lesson. And I think he spearheaded, and I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I thank him. You can either thank him or you can blame him. And thanks to those that contributed. I had people read material, not as much these last 4 weeks. Willie, who always helps me set up. My faithful assistant, Joe. And then my lovely assistant, Lori. And with that, we go back to our scene from the backyard and Pastor.